Welcome to the Economy Magazine. I am Benjamin Chong Alfares with economics and financial reports of the day. Coming up, Holland finds himself caught between socialist ideology and austerity expectations. And Maghreb states show no signs of burying the hatchet. First, the headlines. The British Chambers of Commerce on Thursday upgraded its growth forecast for the UK economy in 2014 to 3.2%. The business group said it expects household consumption for the remainder of 2014 to exceed previous expectations following a sharp drop in unemployment. The jobless rate fell to 6.4% in the 3 months to June, the lowest since late 2008. But the British economy could start a moderate slowdown as soon as 2015, when it predicts the Bank of England will start to gradually raise interest rates. IMF chief Christine Lagarde has been charged for negligence over a multi-million-euro corruption case relating to her time as French finance minister in 2008. Despite the allegations, Lagarde said she had no intention of resigning over the charges. The case relates to her handling of a 400 million euro state payout to disgraced French tycoon Bernard Tapie in 2008. Lagarde has always denied any wrongdoing and on Wednesday said she instructed her lawyer to appeal this decision, which is totally without merit. Unemployment in crisis hit France hit a new high in July in another blow for deeply unpopular President François Hollande. The number of unemployed grew by an additional 26,000 to a total 3,424,000 people out of work, according to the Labor Ministry. It was the 9th consecutive rise in the monthly unemployment figures, reflecting zero growth in the Eurozone and in France, Europe's second biggest economy. Growth has ground to a halt in the first 6 months of the year, and Hollande has been unable to live up to his promise to bring down unemployment. As Malaysia Airlines prepares to announce second quarter results and a major restructure, a quarter of its workforce is likely to be sacked. Deep job losses, root cuts, and a change of leadership are expected to feature in a restructuring plan being prepared by Malaysia's government. As state fund Khazanah Nasional, the majority owner, prepares to take the company private, it must tackle crumbling staff morale and win over the powerful main labor union. This year's twin disasters weighed on the number of passengers choosing to fly the airline, but also led to a peak in resignation of Malaysia flight crew. Losing 2 planes in the span of just 4.5 months is a tragedy that has never happened to any airline in history.
There's a multitude of problems, from a very outdated fleet type and also product offering. It's something that they're trying to address, but will probably take another year or so to complete. Apart from that, they also have an overbloated workforce in terms of size, a management communication between the company that is less efficient compared to other corporations.
South Korean carmaker Kia Motors on Wednesday announced plans to build its first auto assembly plant in Mexico. The $1 billion plant is to be built near the city of Monterrey in northern Mexico and will have the capacity to make 300,000 vehicles a year. Kia is the third foreign car maker to announce major projects in Mexico this year. In July, BMW said it plans to install a $1 billion plant in San Luis Potosi with annual production capacity of 150,000 vehicles. And in June, Renault and Mercedes-Benz announced plans to co-produce up to 300,000 cars a year in Aguascalientes at an investment of $1.35 billion.
Déjenme decirles que en el primer semestre de este año,
allow me to say that in the first semester of this year, our country became Latin America's leading automobile producer and the 7th globally.
séptimo ya a nivel mundial. Además,
Moreover, during the first 7 months of the year, the vehicle production increased by 7.5% compared to the same period last year.
5%.
As unemployment continues to grow in Europe's second largest economy, France's socialist president has chosen austerity over leftist ideals. Here's the story.
Mr. Emmanuel Macron, Minister of Economy, Industry and Digital Technology.
France is getting a new Minister of Economy, a 36-year-old technocrat and former investment banker. Emmanuel Macron is replacing Arnaud Montebourg, But the new minister has anything but unanimous support, even among his party. The new minister is seen as a choice motivated by the world of finance and banking, a world that had been public enemy number one for President François Hollande during his 2007 campaign.
Nous nous enfermons dans la seule politique
The
possible.
symbol behind it all is the idea that we lock on the only policy that would give more money to large companies that do not necessarily need it, who will use this time to increase the dividends of their shareholders. We continue to believe that we should act for reasons of economic efficiency as well as social justice, to conform to the values of the left and support the purchasing power of the lower and middle classes.
D'achat des couches populaires et moyennes.
The government's choice seems more in line with a pro-business approach than interested in social justice. And the choice is being criticized by former ministers, including the outgoing economy minister.
Il n'y a pas, je crois, de colère, il y a...
There's no anger. Today there's a global debate, calls from around the world for a correction of the economic mistake made by all European countries at the same time across
En
Europe.
même temps, en Europe,
For them, austerity measures in France and throughout the European Union prevents recovery. In the Eurozone, the unemployment rate is hovering near 12%, and the threat of deflation is clear and present.
This crisis is due to Hollande himself because he remained ambiguous for 2 years about the fact that the government had two different economic policies, and a government can't have two economic policies.
But the French government seems to have chosen to proceed with austerity as its policy, following in the footsteps of Germany. This despite the figures and statistics that reveal the reality that austerity is not the driver of growth it was once thought to be by some.
And freelance reporter Batya Susharabi joins us now for the Green Corner. Batya.
Hi.
Hi, how's it going? So what do you have for us today?
Well, I'm here to talk about nature and environmental science meeting up.
Okay, let's hear about that.
My first story is about animal feeding operations, or feedlots, as they're called.
Right. Can you explain what are feedlots actually, for those who don't know?
So feedlots are farms where chickens, cows, and pigs are kept until they reach slaughter weight.
Okay.
The animals are kept there for 45 days out of a 12-month period.
And how do they live?
Well, they live in these tiny confined spaces. Feed is brought to them as opposed to allowing outdoor grazing.
Right. And the point here is, there's, if you let me, and basically there's an artist who captured these feedlots.
Yeah,
right?
so Mishka Henner was a British artist who was collecting images via satellite.
Okay.
He inadvertently came across these feedlots looking for oil fields. He discovered these cesspools.
Cesspools.
Yeah, so these photos are that they're going to show are these beautiful, multicolored, very wonderful pictures of manure lagoons.
It's beautiful until you realize what it is.
It's beautiful in theory.
In theory, yeah. Okay, and we're basically looking at cow manure, pig manure.
Manure, pesticides.
Why is it green?
Well, let's call that sludge. Let's say. Okay, so it's basically manure, wastewater.
We're talking essentially about animals that are just pumped with antibiotics and pumped with all kinds of hormones and things.
Yeah, but the cesspools are the waste that's generated. I mean, the amount of waste generated is staggering.
But is this the reason why it has this bizarre color?
Yeah. I mean, the red that you're seeing, I'm assuming it's blood because, like I said, part of what flows in are dead animals.
Right, gotcha.
It's unbelievable.
Gotcha.
The problem with these cesspools is they oftentimes tend to leak or overflow, and they contaminate underground water.
It's actually really nauseating. What's the next story?
Yes, it is. Okay.
What is the next story?
So my next story is about University of Tokyo's Hiroshi Sagawa, who has invented a flower-like solar cell that can generate your smartphone twice.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, wow. Okay, we can actually see it now.
It's really beautiful. So the device is basically a flower-shaped solar cell, dye-sensitized solar cell that he's shaped into the form of a flower.
Hydrangea, I think, isn't it?
Yes, it's called a hydrangea. It's called the Annabelle for a reason. So as the device generates electricity, the petals turn blue.
Oh, that's cool.
And as the device discharges, it turns white, just like the hydrangea called Annabelle. Thus, the device is named Annabelle.
Okay. Well, what's the reason for him actually choosing to go with a flower? I mean, is it more aesthetically
so alternative
pleasing?
energy, alternative energy tends to conjure up negative images. I mean, the big windmills and birds flying into it and dying. So this is something called enjoyable energy that brings a smile to people's faces, and it's a lovely addition to your sunroom. He's already made one in the image of French President François Hollande.
We just discussed,
Japanese, oh really? Okay, so Japanese pop star Hitsune Kitsune Miku.
Okay.
He says one can be made into animated characters, portraits of real-life people, and it's just a really lovely, enjoyable energy.
Okay, so I guess going from where art actually depicts something really ugly, which is the feedlots, of course, we just saw something where art actually is used in a way, to make it all more
it's very artistic.
enjoyable.
I think he's displaying that at the Chicago Art Expo.
Okay.
So it's lovely.
Fantastic. Well, freelance reporter Batya Susharabi, thanks so much for joining us again, and see you again in the Green Corner. Thank you.
Bye.
Despite seemingly strong ties between the states of the Arab Maghreb Union, an ongoing feud between Morocco and Algeria has left the border impenetrable for 20 years now. Here are the details.
On one side, Morocco, Algeria on the other. Some 1,500 kilometers of border have been closed for 20 years after an August 1994 attack in Marrakesh, which Morocco blamed on Algeria. Algiers subsequently closed the border. Despite the negative impact on the economies of the two countries, the reopening of the border is not on the agenda. In fact, last year, Algeria, an oil-producing country, decided to strengthen its border presence and dig trenches against fuel smuggling. And a month ago, Rabat announced the construction of an electronic fence with the stated aim of protecting Morocco from terrorism. At the same time, diplomatically, leaders advocate a strong and integrated Arab Maghreb Union, a trade coalition of which both countries are a part.
The realization of our ambition of the edification of a strong and big Maghreb, which is capable of fulfilling its role on the political, economical, social, and security fronts, must be based on the establishment of strong relations between the five countries.
Algeria, Morocco, Libya, Tunisia, and Mauritania have been engaged in this economic and political organization since 1989. But last year, several studies revealed that trade between these five countries accounted for only 3% of their total trade. The lack of integration comes at a price. The World Bank estimates that the absence of a partnership such as this would cost billions of dollars each year for those countries.
And now for a review of different articles from around the world in Media Watts with Daniel Roth. There we go, Daniel Roth.
How's it going?
Good. We have the Independence here, right?
Yeah, so the Independent carried this piece. Apparently a developer in South Florida was building a building, a highly coveted, large-scale project, and it was called ISIS.
Okay.
So they actually had to change the name. They came under fire because obviously ISIS has different connotations now.
Unfortunate connotation these days. Of course, I mean, I would think Bob Dylan, you know.
Right, and
no?
I would think of the the Egyptian goddess.
Right.
But the developer actually changed the name to 333. Maybe that's the address. Maybe it's because it's half of 666. I don't know, but
controversy.
But they actually had to change the name. It's true also of a sex shop line of clothes called by Ann Summers that they had called ISIS. They also had to change the name. So this is kind of
not sexy enough, I guess.
Yeah, ISIS is not sexy any way you cut it, and there's a lot of businesses being affected. I think there's also a school in London called ISIS, a business school.
Yeah.
They also are thinking about changing their names.
Can they get past it by saying, well, it's really IS these days? It's really Islamic State. It's really the
but then
caliphate.
everything with the word "is" will have to change.
So we can't use it anymore in the English language, right?
You can't say.
Is that a problem?
It already is.
Okay, yeah, gotcha.
Moving on, Haaretz, Israeli daily. Haaretz carried a piece. SodaStream, highly controversial, been in the news for the last. Scarlett Johansson, BDS, all of these things come to mind. They're opening up a new factory in the south, in the Negev desert.
Right.
And in the next 2 months, they're going to be announcing whether they're going to close their West Bank factory. So
this is the West Bank factory, which according to some news sources, is this amazing place where Jews and Arabs work together, and people from local communities in the West Bank
It's controversial because, for example, it's Jews and Arabs working together,
right.
but of course, there's not a lot of job security for people who don't enjoy some of the same rights. 60 people were fired during Ramadan for asking for more time to eat. It's a sticky issue now. The CEO has said very clearly they're not making a decision based on pressure from the boycott movement. They're gonna make a financial decision. The question is if the boycott movement is having any financial weight on the decision. Because the value of the companies dropped 35% this year. Some people say that's because of the pressure BDS has put and the worldwide focus on it when Scarlett Johansson kind of...
Didn't Coca-Cola also start, putting out their own
there are now competitors. There's a lot of potential reasons for it that, we'll be exploring.
Gotcha. Okay, well, Dan and Rod, thanks for joining us. That's the end of this Economy Edition. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Benjamin Chong. Join us again tomorrow and stay with it.